Greetings. We are live in the aviary today with Big Buddha and Half Pint. We're going to hold a Q&A and answer your questions. Beep beep, you ready? You ready for a camera, to be on camera? Alright, here we go. Beep beep. There is Half Pint and Big. We're back. There's Big Buddha and Half Pint. Okay guys, you ready to answer questions? Let's wait and see if anybody joins. Beep beep. I'll ask some questions. Okay, first question is, let's see if I can set this where it stays. First question is for you, Half Pint. Are you ready? Tell people. Beep beep. Oh, you have a question? Why would someone dump an innocent baby with no feathers at a lake? What were they thinking? Well, I think some people don't understand the difference between wild ducks and domestic ducks. Wild ducks are little tiny flying machines, and they can survive in the wild and find all the food they need. But that's not what you are. You're a domestic duck, a dumped domestic duck with no feathers yet. You cannot ever fly. You have what's called high wing load, which just means you're bred too big, too fat to fly. And you also need food support because you're bred to need too much food for you to survive in the wild by yourself. You're at risk for off-leash dogs and other predators, and you usually end up with leg injuries pretty quickly in the wild if you're not eating a fishing hook like your poor, sad, little suffering buddy that had to be euthanized. So why did somebody dump you? Ignorance, limited information, or they simply didn't give a shit. That is often a possibility as well. They got you for Easter, because that's about how old you are. Easter was a month ago now, and they tired of you. So they dumped you at a pond. That was a question that Half Pint had. Why would someone dump me at a pond? The answer is, some people are dumb, Half Pint. Big Buddha, let's answer some just basic duck questions for people who think they want to get ducks. What is the biggest mistake that someone makes when they get ducks? There's a few mistakes. I would say the top ones are not making sure they're zoned for ducks before they get them. A lot of people get them. We've had people get them in apartments and think they can keep a duck in their bathtub. We've had people get them and then their neighbors complain and they then get mad. They want the city to change the codes when it was their responsibility to make sure they were allowed to legally have them before they got them. Or they're renters and the homeowner shows up and says, hey, wait a minute, you can't do that. So that's a big mistake people make, is not being legally allowed to have ducks before they get them, or not being allowed to by their landlord. Another big mistake people make is they make space for ducks that keeps the ducks in. And as I just mentioned, domestic ducks, most of them cannot fly. So you really don't have to keep them in. They will stay where they think home is and where food is after a day or so. What you need to do is make a fortress that keeps predators out. Because there's a saying called, like a sitting duck. And that's because sitting ducks are very vulnerable. So we have an aviary that is chain link and has a top on it, which you kind of can't see because there's a tree inside and out of it. There you go. And then on the sides where it's lowest to the ground, we've also added hardware cloths, so there's wiring that's too small for creatures to reach their hands in. And some places need even more than that if they have problems with weasels. You gotta have that hardware cloth on all sides, top and bottom. But here where we're at, the predators here mean chain link is okay with hardware cloth dug into the ground around it so nothing can dig under, and have a top on it, and what else? That's it. Then we just have inside dividers that are made out of garden fence to keep different personalities in different areas. Huh? What other questions? Are ducks high maintenance? Bob Tart has a book called Enslaved by Ducks, and in it he describes ducks as more maintenance than the space shuttle, which is pretty funny and sometimes can feel true. I don't think they're all that much more maintenance than chickens. Here in our aviary, we probably spend, on the lightest chore days, 20 minutes. Dumping all the buckets every morning, refilling all the buckets, and feeding everybody. And we do that a few times a day, so to cut down on leaving food out, which can attract rodents or rats in this area. So then about once a week we got to do a more extensive cleanup and add new wood shavings so wherever they've pooped it gets covered, and shovel out anything that has too much poop on it so it doesn't get too many flies. But other than that, that's kind of the maintenance. Does anyone else have questions? Do you have any questions, Big Buddha? Why can't I have bread? Is that your question? I love bread. Why can't I have bread? Well, Big Buddha, bread is bad for ducks. It basically lacks any nutrients they need to grow, especially for fast-growing ducklings. They need nutrients, and bread just doesn't have enough of them. So it's like if you were going to feed a kid pizza every single day for every meal. Bread for ducks that are getting fresh greens and are able to graze on grass and are getting a balanced poultry feed. Bread is an okay snack once in a while in very small amounts, but you just shouldn't feed bread to park ducks. Not only is it truly bad for the babies and can give them metabolic bone disease and just cause other malformations, for the adults it just can lead to overpopulation. It even keeps wild mallards from migrating. They'll stick around in the winter, and then when people don't go feed because there's 2 feet of snow on the ground, they start to starve. Are you going to show us your wingies? Pew! Choop, choop! Questions? Why are they so yellow? They still have buttery down feathers, and then they will start to grow in their final feathers now. They have some feathers now. How long does it take any new ducks to become part of the group? Kind of depends on the individual ducks. People ask, like, do ducks get along with chickens? And it's like, well, yeah, do you remember Carol chicken? It kind of depends on the chicken. So how long does it take them to fit in? Depends on the individuals. Some of them never fit in. I have, an older duck, Miles, who is just a fighter. So he just has always had his own area, but he does finally have a girlfriend in Ruby after her boyfriend Lionel passed away. These two right here, even though this guy's pretty small to move, Half Pint's pretty small to move in with Big Buddha, when Half Pint's buddy that she came in with had to be euthanized because she'd swallowed a hook, these two who were right next to each other wanted to be with each other, and so the Big Buddha has been really sweet and gentle with the little Half Pint. So that only took a day. So it kind of depends on the individuals. Like, people will ask, do ducks get along with chickens? It's like, well, do cats get along with dogs? Some of them, a lot of them. Yeah, dogs and ducks you have to be real careful with that combo. A lot of people will tell me, well, my dog would never hurt a bird. Well, everyone tells me that, and we get a lot of dog biting duck injuries. And it's usually not the dog's fault, because the duck will chase them. Ducks, especially if they're raised with dogs, will kind of imprint on dogs and chase and bite and nibble, because they nibble each other, but since they're fully feathered, it doesn't bother them. But when they're nibbling a dog, they can actually connect and bite and hurt them. They'll even nibble their faces. And so we get a lot of kind of face chewing injuries in ducks because they've just pushed it too far with dogs. Ducks will turn away from you when they don't want to talk to, and then when they feel like you're too close, so I'm kind of getting the cold shoulder right now. Bwah. Are you good duckies? It's nap time. They have full bellies, and they're just about to settle down for a nap, and you can see Half Pint likes to be close to the Big Buddha. Now, Big Buddha here is probably 4.5, 5 weeks old. So almost full size, you can see. Not fully feathered yet, but approaching, not quite full size yet, but big, like a big, big duck. Half Pint's more like 3 weeks. Since these guys are younger, is their food different? Yeah, ducklings can have unmedicated chick starter foods, and most chick starters are unmedicated now. But it's important to read the thing. And it's crumble food, so it's like a kind of almost a fine powder. And I just put it in a bowl next to a deep dish of water. They can have that for 4 to 8 weeks, but I found once they get this big, as Big Buddha, you can kind of start switching them over to the adult food, or it's kind of a half and half, so they get the right amount of protein. And as long as they're getting lots of sunshine and outside time and grasses and dirt, they do pretty well. They also need, one thing a lot of people forget is grit. So if you're keeping them in a brooder or, some area that it doesn't have dirt on the ground, they need some dirt and small tiny pebbles to help in their gizzard. It's like a rock tumbler, and it digests their food. And if they don't have that, they will eat anything they can find to help their tummy feel good and digest food. And that oftentimes they'll end up with what's called hardware disease. They'll eat earrings and staples and nails and screws, anything they think is like a little pebble, and that will poison them. That's probably why the buddy that got dumped at the pond, the little runner girl that ate a fish hook, it either had food on it or she noticed it was metal and she wanted it in her gizzard and didn't know it would kill her. Is there anything Big Buddha or Half Pint would like to say to potential adopters? What do you guys think? We are a good little boy crew. I think they might both be boys. We're not positive on the smaller one yet, but they would like to say, give boys a chance. You'll get sick of duck eggs anyway, and girl ducks with duck eggs have a lot of reproductive infections and cancers. But 2 boys, a little bro squad, would be happy to be together in your home if you can keep them safe. Does preening automatically happen, or is it learned? It automatically happens. They just love to kind of nibble on their feathers or anything. They have kind of an oil gland on their face a little bit, and they'll tear, like people say, oh, the duck is crying. That's actually kind of a little bit of an oil that comes out of their eyes, and then they have an oil gland on the top of their tail, which maybe Half Pint will show us. Are you going to show us your oil gland? Why don't you reach back and show us? No. He's preening his wingies right now. But they'll reach back and put their bill on top of their oil gland at the back of their tail, top of their tail, and then spread that oil around their feathers. Right now, these guys are just getting feathers in, so they're nibbling a lot of the casings on the feathers. The feathers come in sheaths, or like feather shafts, and then that part breaks away, or they nibble it away. Teep, teep, teep. They're not very talkative now that they have each other. They're watching birdies. What's that big birdie in the sky? It's kind of a warm day, so there's, very nice stretch, Big Buddha. Oh, yeah. You can see his wing feathers. Someone had asked earlier, did someone cut off their wings or trim their wings? No, their wings are kind of the last to grow in. So Big Buddha's starting to get some flight feathers coming in, and pin feathers, with the shafts or the sheaths around them. And those will be the last feathers to grow in. Oh, you're going to stretch too. That's very cute. Look at that double stretcher. What cute little double stretchers. Oh, it's kind of warm. You got to stretch out. Oh, yeah. Good stretchers, Half Pint. Big Buddha. They're looking for a safe forever pet home. They will be awesome pets. They will, unlike dogs or cats, they don't like to be pet like a dog or a cat, but they will if they get friendly enough. You see how they preen themselves? They will tolerate some of that, kind of just sort of nibble, like little picking at their feathers a little bit. That's how they are nice to each other. They don't, you don't notice them ever petting each other like cats will lick cats or dogs will lick dogs. But they will preen each other. So if you mimic their behavior instead of trying to pet them like a dog or a cat, they'll like that more. These two are a little bit skittish. But I think eventually around people they will come and take treats from your hands, lettuces, things like that. And I think I've just about worn out my battery, so I think we'll cut this off, but we'll see if we can save it. Any last questions for these snoozers? I'll just give you a view of the rest of they're in a little space within the bigger aviary with their own little house right now. A little food bowl, water bowl. And some neighboring scobies, and everyone else is kind of out goofing off on the lawn. And that's it. First Facebook Live for foster ducklings, signing off. Bye, guys.